Yeah, so first of all, dude, it's a real pleasure. And I think you're awesome.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
yeah, and brilliant as well, by the way. I'm reading the book, and I also saw your Messiah show at the Hammersmith.
Oh, thank you.
So that was great as well.
You're really kind. I love this interview already.
Yeah, actually, you don't have to say anything. I'm just going to kiss ass for the next 20 minutes, and that's it. Easy, right?
This is one of the
Just
great
look pretty.
interviews of my life. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, no, amazing, and the book's amazing. So let's start with a couple of questions. First of all, I see you've got what are these, like the chakras on your tattooed? Yeah.
Yes.
When did you get them? And
Maybe
yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, I think. I was doing a lot of Kundalini yoga, and I became very interested in these energy centers in the body. And I was thinking about it today. Today I did a Kundalini meditation that goes. I'll show you, in fact.
Yeah,
Because
please,
you've got
please.
this element to it. You sit like this. You have to check in for Kundalini yoga with the Om Namo Gurudev Namo, Om Namo Gurudev Namo, Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Then the mantra for this position is 33 minutes like this, and it's Ramada Sa Sa Se So Hum. When I'm doing that, I count down the mantras. The Ra I think of as being that.
Yep. Crown.
Yeah. Ma here.
Third eye. Yeah.
Da Sa Sa Say So. In fact, I think I had to add one to make it correspond, because I wanted that to be the banda.
Sure.
So I added this above that. So the Ra I thought of as the sun god Ra, the Egyptian sun god.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
Excellent.
And then I went down in sequentially in that order, because then counting down the chakras, it gave me enough focus to not just sit there making that noise, thinking about what I'd be doing later or whatever.
Yep.
So that's how.
So how long do you said this was about half an hour?
This was 33 minutes precisely. This is in addition to the 20 minutes I do twice a day of transcendental meditation.
And you mentioned it's kind of like recharging your phone, right?
That's Seinfeld says
Seinfeld
that.
said it, yeah.
Yeah, but like, because he has a way of making things seem not airy-fairy. Me, I feel like it's an inward shower. Sometimes I feel like I really need it. I feel like, oh God. And sometimes it takes me a long while to be peaceful enough to even hold a mantra.
Sure. So today, for example, you've done the Kundalini, and you've already done probably one transcendental meditation.
Yes.
You've got one more to go later on today.
Yes.
And what else do you do to take care of your mind, body, and spirit?
I have a program in my life where I am mindful of how I treat others and treat myself. So if I think I've done anything wrong, I have to amend for it, and I normally do something wrong every day.
Can you give an example of something recent?
Yeah, I walked into a members club and they wanted me to sign in. They never normally want me to sign in. The guy wanted me to sign in, and I thought, fuck off! I felt like a roaring egoic.
Sure.
Then when I got there, I woke up there. But by the time the elevator had reached the top floor, I thought, I shouldn't have just walked past that guy. I should have signed in. So then when I left, I went, excuse me, hello, I want to apologise for earlier.
She was still there?
It was a man, and he was still there, yeah. And so I apologise for it. It's not that bad, is it? So I apologise. The fuck off, that was just imaginary. That never happened. That was just the description of the inner feeling. So that happens every day. In the morning every day I pray. One, gratitude, thank you for life. 2, courage to make the right decisions and move in the right direction. 3, healing, that in every interaction I have, people feel better for having been in an interaction with me. 4, signs. I ask for the signs. I ask to be communicated with all times, to feel communion and connection to a higher force. 5, alignment with God's will, so that I can be an expression. Those are the things that I pray for.
Cool. Well, it definitely seems like you've had a huge shift in your life in the last few years. And it really seems like you're walking the walk. I got to say that. Do you feel like a lot better these days? What What is your, how...
Intermittently, I still have, what I know is that there is nothing left for me in the direction of flesh.
Yeah.
I'm made of flesh, so I'm attracted by it, and I want to be involved with it. And but I know that when I recalibrate, I try to recalibrate back into the direction of the connection. That I know that unless I'm in the service of a higher thing, that I'm not going to be happy. I can know I'll be distracted, and that sin. I read something today. Sin is severance from God. It's when you know that what you're trying to get some little pleasure from being disconnected from God. And obviously I did it. I ate a Kit Kat just now. I don't think I should have ate.
I think that's all right.
Yeah.
You get past for me, but not that I'm God or anything. But,
except, of course, Etan, that God is within us all.
Absolutely.
So in this moment, you are.
Thank you. Sin, by the way, in Greek apparently, and in Hebrew, because I do speak Hebrew, means to miss the mark. Literally, that's what it means.
Right, to move off the
path. Yeah,
cool.
So to miss is just a sin. But very interesting. I like in the book you mentioned how it's important to try and do at least one good thing, unselfish thing each day. Yes. And sometimes you notice when you're unhappy, it's also because you haven't done that. Once you've done that, you do feel a lot better.
Yes.
I think that's beautiful. And you say it to strangers, you say, obviously, not to some self-serving, person that's close to you. What have you done that's good? I don't know, today.
Today? Hold on a minute. Oh no. What time is it?
Shit. Well, we can go to, it's okay, yesterday's fine as well. Still got time today.
Oh no, I've been, lately, I let me think what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, I'm involved in a campaign for these women occupying a house in East London. They've been moved out of their accommodation into a hostel, and they're about to be moved all around the country. I'm doing some work with them, so I've done some things. I've made some phone calls to a friend of mine who's an activist to involve him in that process. So that is a kind of...
Yeah, sure.
But then you the more you go on, the more you realise that you benefit from everything.
Yeah,
so you benefit from being involved, you benefit from community. Let me think, have I done anything for... And also, when people are I'm kind of lucky because people want things from me that are pretty easy to give. Like, will you do this message for my girlfriend? Will you do this? So those kind of things. I get opportunities to do stuff like that quite frequently. And I helped a man reverse out of my road.
Really? What?
A man was reversing out of the road. I go,
and you helped him coordinate the car? You told him stop, go, right? Yeah.
I asked him, do you want me to help? He said, no. And then I helped him anyway. And then he told me 2 jokes, one of which was anti-Semitic.
Oh, nice.
But I just had to just sort of go...
Yeah.
He was reaching out.
Sure.
What do you do?
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's hard, isn't it? You think I've got you've got to re-educate everyone all the time, all day long.
Yeah.
It's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very tricky, absolutely. And who you help may not always think the way you think, and we still got to show love to everyone, as you say. Right?
I think so. I think that's probably the best bet.
I like to think so.
Surely, because otherwise it's endless. The idea of trying to control everyone and be punitive, and God, where would that end?
Well, yeah, it's just a vicious circle.
Yeah.
So spirituality. So let's talk. I mean, first of all, and I have a degree in physics, so I love the fact that you know so much about physics.
You're joking, honestly.
Well, no, you do.
Thanks,
you definitely. Your references are totally spot on. And I feel like I was going to ask you, do you believe in reincarnation? Because you say you believe in God. But do you believe in reincarnation? But then again, I feel like maybe that's a silly question because you kind of mentioned there is no self. So what does that really mean? So I don't know.
Well, I suppose I think it's feasible, Etan, that a consciousness could have that you could go, hold on a minute, I can remember some other experience of being alive.
Yep.
Is it sort of I think that's entirely plausible. But the self, as far as I can work out, is a construction. The personality is a construction, but the awareness behind the self seems to be absolute. I would go with that. Recently, and it's in the book, it occurred to me that every night everyone falls asleep and dreams, and there's no drug, not ayahuasca, not anything. It's more crazy than that, and everyone does it every night. Just goes to sleep, goes into some mad interdimensional self-designed space.
Absolutely.
Like the capacities of consciousness are evidently, well, not limitless, but sort of so extraordinary, and we're happy to live in such a narrow bandwidth within such a narrow bandwidth of ideas, and that's fine if it wasn't so ecologically damaging and unfair. Right. It's only when it's ecologically damaging and unfair that we have to go, oh, there are alternatives.
Yeah, exactly. That's fucked up. And we're going to get to that in a second, but I do want to say that I think you totally hit the nail on the head when you talk about consciousness, because that really is what it's all about in a sense, and that's where science, I mean, also Rupert Sheldrake, who you mentioned, tends to miss the point, because we don't understand consciousness, and to think that, you know, that our reductive science, you know, has everything, you know, fully understood is you know, a complete fallacy. I mean, the whole idea of Schrodinger's cat, by the way, was kind of as a thought experiment. They're supposed to show that quantum mechanics didn't make sense, because how could the cat be both alive and dead? Because surely it can't be, even though it seems like it is to us in the box, because the cat itself is conscious. So the question is, who's conscious? If the cat is conscious, does that mean that there's already a result inside or not?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, completely.
So consciousness, and, you know, there's this idea of different forms of consciousness and all of that. So definitely, I buy the idea that consciousness is more than the mind. It's more than just our, you know, materialistic brain.
And that there is a total symbiotic relationship between consciousness and reality. The idea of trying to separate them and go, well, there was a reality that existed without consciousness, that's sort of impossible, because all information has been processed by the consciousness of an individual or more. So reality, what we term as reality, has got is inextricably linked to consciousness, but a particular and limited sensory-based aspect of consciousness. So, but to assume that that's all that there is, I don't know.
You mentioned the five senses, and you're I
like that analogy I got. That he said that through our senses we can. It's like dipping your finger in a glass of water. You could sort of feel the weight around the glass of water.
Daniel Pinchbeck, right?
That was it was an IVF doctor I spoke to once.
Oh yeah. That's right. Right. But no, I love that. And then you mentioned also the ocean as a metaphor, right? Trying to dip, and that's how little we understand.
The unknown.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot that's unknown. So going back to the more fucked up stuff, and I think that's a big part of the book, is about about changing our society, about radical change. And you talk about it being a revolution that's really a spiritual revolution, because it's got to start from inside rather than, you know, any other system. And you really believe in the book that you're a sort of optimist, despite all this, like, you know, pessimism, that there is an opportunity by the end of the 21st century to have an alternative and sustainable and peaceful coexistence.
Yeah, that Buckminster said, utopia or oblivion. I think it's entirely necessary. I read a sort of an extract of I can't remember who it was, a guy hanging out with Bertrand Russell, a person that wrote a book called "I Am Therefore You Are" or something. You are therefore I am is the name of the book. It's the kind of book I guess you dig. It's some sort of Indian yogi kind of scholar fella, and he was saying that they were talking about the campaign for nuclear disarmament, which Bertrand Russell was well into. He was saying, isn't it more important to change the way that people perceive the world and people think? Because if you just get rid of nuclear weapons, there'll be other things that replace it. Our society, we have to accept, is the society that created nuclear weapons, so it was the logical conclusion of where we were. The rational conclusion was the creation of nuclear weapons. Shouldn't we be looking on an individual basis at all of our consciousness? Bertrand Russell went, look, fuck all that. We've got to get rid of nuclear weapons.
Right.
But it seems that until you address the consciousness that creates these conditions, these conditions will continue.
They're just symptoms. Yeah, absolutely. There's biological warfare, which can be even worse, right? There's a lot of stuff. So,
until we reach a point of where we're not so adversarial, where we're not so combative, then these problems will perpetuate.
Absolutely. It was interesting because you mentioned the military and the police, for example, that they're actually, normal guys, just like you and I at the end of the day. But too often they're used to protect, I guess, the people at the top of the pyramid, basically. And that's basically what this is all about. It's about having a more fair, egalitarian society, right?
Yes, to move in that direction, to make that the template. Currently, the template is not democracy, the template is not equality, the template is the enforcement of elitism. So, yeah, so an issue like the relationship between most people and the police force is sort of one of either intimidation or the application of force. When I have a personal encounter with the police, I always think, well, they're nice guys, what's going on?
At least here, not in the US, as you mentioned. I agree with that.
Certainly more reversed. but like I know ultimately, whenever I've seen in either country, I sort of think that we have to. I believe in the possibility for real change, and that change is not possible if we have an adversarial attitude towards the police force and the military. That at some point we're gonna, as David Graeber said in my book, at some point we're gonna need them not to shoot us. so it's, I think, good to begin building bridges in those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to the people at the top of the pyramid. You mentioned 85 people on a bus, right? Quite often as having as much wealth as half of the world's population, 3.5 billion.
Yes.
And obviously, yeah, a lot of that seems quite like fair criticism. But surely there must be people on the bus that you like, right?
No.
No?
It's not like a matter of like or dislike. Those kind of egoic labels don't seem that helpful. What I think is because currently the truth that is succeeding, the reality that is dominating, is the reality that suits them. And if you want another truth, if you want another reality, we're going to have to dismantle that. Yeah. So all I want to do is dismantle that idea to make it irresistible, to make the idea of the aspiration of equality, the aspiration of ecological responsibility, the aspiration of a decent life for ordinary people, a life where people feel connected to one another and to themselves, their nature and nature, inner and outer. That seems to me to be a good aspiration. And any systems that prevent that, we can relieve ourselves of those.
I agree. And you come up with really, interesting alternatives, which ideas like maxing the pay rate for CEOs so that it's, I don't know, maybe like 10 or 20 times or max compared to the lowest wages and things like that to make, so you still would have some form of inequality, you could call it, but it's not as crazy as it is today, basically.
We could go as far as we want. Some people might want a total ascetic fucking system of monastic life where we're in robes.
That seems a little boring.
6 hours a day.
I won't sign up for that.
Yeah, because we're made of flesh. We want to have sex, don't we? And eat chocolate, Kit Kats and stuff.
I do, yeah.
So then you are allowed to because you are free. But there's no reason why the price you pay for that should be.
The fear is that so often that politics have a really dangerous way of just coming back to bite you in the ass. The people who want to make positive change end up just like you say. You say about that. If there's a revolution, the first thing you should do is execute the leaders of the revolution. I think that's true because in a sense, not necessarily literally, but there's a danger that whoever takes over, power corrupts and it could be just as bad. I mean, you could be in the communist Soviet Union with that attitude.
You're quite right. That's sort of one of the things that I continually advocate throughout the book is the abolition of those kind of power structures, to have horizontal power, to have attitudinal shift, that a position of leadership is a position of service, not a position of power. So if you're a member of the police force or a member of the army or a member of the government, that you are, or of any governmental body, you are in a position of service, and these are the people that I work for. These are the people I work for.
I think that's quite cool. It's different. Plato obviously was...
in the Republic, that's different.
Yeah, he mentions he wants politicians to be just politicians, right? To be born. I don't like the idea of someone being born for a particular role, neither would you. But the fact that they're just politicians, that's all they do, and they shouldn't have any materialistic or other form of identity. It's just all about service. So the idea of having it being specialized. But yeah, no, it's tough. I mean, I don't know if you've heard this, but there is this theorem in economics says that it's impossible to create a perfectly democratic, a perfect voting system. That no matter what you do, because there are lots of alternatives. You could say, well, if my candidate doesn't win, then give my vote to this person. They're like hierarchical. There's all these things, and people have tried to come up with these things. It's a thing in game theory that will create a better voting system. And Arrow's theorem says that no matter what you do, it's always going to be fucked. It's kind of like Gödel's theorem for I guess, like against like democracy, which doesn't mean you can't have some form of democracy, but it's very difficult, and that's where I think part of the problem is. And I guess no, I'd love to see this alternative world, but yeah, it's hard to see exactly how things can happen. Obviously, you're right about you've got, it's called democratainment. We've got democracy and entertainment now through voting on American Idol or here X Factor or things like that. But how does people, once we have this alternative infrastructure, how can we actually make it work is the question, right? Without having it somehow be corrupted. That's the question.
Well, the only way I can think, Etan, is to deconcentrate power as much as possible. So the more that power is consolidated, the more open to corruption it is. The more that you deconcentrate, it will slow things down hugely. But where are we going? What's the rush? Have all these white goods and white values given us the leisure society we were promised? People work so much time. It's not like we only work 2 hours a day.
It's worse, actually. Apparently, it sounds like some people work a lot more hours today than they did back in the 1900s.
Yeah, we might as well slow down. I don't know what the premium on rushing is. Everyone's speed to do what? Speed to do what? I think that people. But what I think is important is tribalised communities where people are invested and engaged, self-governing and autonomous, in control of their own lives, responsible for their own lives, which won't be zipping about super fast like an MTV commercial reel. But you may have some sense of spiritual succour.
Absolutely, I totally buy into that. I agree with that. 100%.
Well, if Mind, Body and Spirit magazine and I can't get along, what chance do we have?
Well, that's true. This is easy. But here, I'm going to still try and play devil's advocate for a sec, if I may.
Yes, of course.
So back to the people on the bus. Bill Gates, he's on the bus. Isn't he amazing with what he's doing for the world? The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they're like, trying to cure these diseases and fight poverty and extreme situations. I mean, he's doing more for Africa and like India now than people have ever done, I guess.
Well, that's really good. I mean, and I certainly it would be impolite of a person in my position to criticise someone who has done so much, and that's why it's not really a criticism of individuals that I'm offering. More, isn't it? Kind of, why would we want someone to have so much concentrated wealth, so much concentrated power? That seems like an odd system. So, what Bill Gates is doing is admirable, while what loads of people are doing is incredible. Sure. It would be better, wouldn't it, to create systems. That's why I like Buckminster Fuller, because of the just pragmatism. To serve humanity, 100% of people, to the disadvantage of no one, without the detriment of the planet, to encourage spontaneous cooperation, to sort of see that, yes, that's what we've got to do. Well, let's not get confused. Pull back into wide focus. There's this many people, there's this many resources, we're all on this planet. Right, what things are causing damage? Oh, right, well, we've got a sort of an energy setup that's ruining everything. Why? Oh, because it benefits this elite. Stop doing that. We're having all these wars. Why? It benefits this elite. Stop doing that. So, pretty much any problem you have, you trace it back to those people on the bus. So, if once in a while they chuck a few tokens out the window, that's very kind. But it's not enough.
But Warren Buffett, for example, plans to give up most of his wealth. In his will, so he's already giving a lot of it while he's alive, but he doesn't want to give. Most of it's not going to be inherited by his family. So they are, a lot of them are.
That's true. A lot of people are doing good things. I suppose, though.
Yeah, more than tokens.
Yeah, right. Oh, I see. Well, a lot of people. I've not looked into it, and it does sound like they're doing positive things, and I'm not disparaging that. I'm just saying that these things are not a replacement for deconcentrated power, and it's not Warren Buffett's responsibility. It's our responsibility to take
Although
control.
He is asking for higher taxes, actually.
Is he?
Yeah, he keeps saying that it's not fair that his secretary pays a higher tax percentage than he does, just because capital gains is much lower tax than wages. So he's actually and he's always been very much on the Democrat side, even though obviously that's not enough. But so there are things. I think, by the way, and I don't know if you mentioned that in the book, but I think that inheritance tax, by the way, is a good way to do that.
Yeah.
Because if you want to make sure, I think that dynastic wealth is one of the most dangerous things out there, and because because the thing is, and this goes back to Piketty, is he says that at the end of the day, wealth tends to grow faster than wages. And so the only way that you can really fight that in a sense is through trying, at least intergenerationally, is an easy thing is to just put high inheritance tax, and that's not hard to do. The U.S. does that, by the way, and that's why there is a lot of giving to charity. I guess Warren Buffett kind of wants to be able to give it in a way that he can control, so he still gets to do what he wants with his money. But
it's high inheritance tax. Is that what happens?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
But the higher you raise it, obviously, the easier it would be to structure this revolution of yours. So I think that's a good point to go after really hard, and that's where you see corruption all over the world. By the way, not just in the West. It's dynastic wealth.
Yes. All I would like to do is broaden the argument beyond reformism that still places the power and control in the hands of the people that currently have power and control. I'd say we have the power and control now. We organise systems that are ecologically responsible, that are based on egalitarianism, whilst there may still be flaws, and it will be up to us as communities and individuals to see how far in the direction of utopia we want to propel. The aim has got to be what's possible, what is possible, what is best, not to be limited by. For me, I'm not comfortable with the dynamic of philanthropic donation. I don't like that.
You still feel like someone's doing you a favour.
Yeah, it's like, well, look, these 100 people, of course, they get systems in place, like they remove the profit incentive, remove the imperative for corporations to grow, make these things impossible. So, at least have that as an ideal. We don't know where we'll get, but we know that we have to be. Capitalism is an extremist ideology, so we have to oppose it with something that's capable of dealing with that. Something that's ready to meet that. I think if we sort of just stand on the sidelines, go, would you mind a little bit less of that and a bit more of that? Then it's just this big thrusting, mighty, vascular phallus of selfishness, so just keep fucking us in the arse.
That's true. Well, I love. Let me make sure that I say about the the telethon, this George Clooney bit, where even though it seemed like it's obviously a great cause, and here probably better than others, but you're right that with philanthropy, I mean, we all are used to looking at these glossy magazines and seeing the rich and famous have their banquets to, save people in some third world country, right? Where really they actually spend more money on the banquet sometimes than the actual amount of money that they're raising. It's kind of a way for them to feel good about themselves, right?
I think sometimes it is that, and it seems that George Clooney's a pretty switched on and cool man. That's the only time I've ever met him, but my personal feeling being involved with that was a kind of a discomfort that I felt generally when involved in the entertainment world of who is this for, what is this about, and it's not sort of a personal thing at all about George Clooney. It's more of a, how do these institutions work, how do they function? It makes me feel uneasy.
Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, wow, really? Okay, is that right? Okay, well, whatever they say, I'll respect. Well, it's So no, I think that's true. Well, hold on. So a couple of key things we got to hit. So going back to a couple things. Do you want to have kids?
I would like to. I would love to. I don't know how to at the moment. I don't have a uterus. But if the opportunity arises, I would love to. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be quite able. I'm married and I do plan to, yeah. Although we might also adopt as well, because I think it's a very nice thing to do. I don't know.
You're
we
proper
don't need to,
living it, you, aren't you? You've got your lovely magazine, you've got a lovely wife, you might adopt. I mean, you're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. But yeah, some people say it's selfish to have kids, even though I think it's a wonderful thing as well. But when there's a lot of kids to adopt out there. So what type of world would you like to see then your kids grow up in?
Well, just where you're. I would like, for not only for my kids but for myself, to have a real experience of living in the world, which is available to us now. We don't have to wait for that. Like when I'm involved in campaigns where people are connected and are organising communities, like the women down at the Carpenters Estate who are occupying empty homes because they need homes, I feel like, oh wow, I'm engaged in the world. This is good. Instead of when I'm hanging around doing some sort of spurious work, I feel sort of like, oh, this is pointless. There's this frequency. There's this frequency that's available to us all, and I want to tune into that because it's connecting and it's valuable and it's beautiful, and I think it's ultimate. And why not do that while we're here? Why do some approximation?
Why chase all this brainwash stuff that the mainstream media pushes at you? Look for this alternative meaning. By the way, I assume I don't know, but have you been to Burning Man?
I never have.
Oh my God!
I've been invited a couple of times.
Jesus
I'm
Christ.
scared of the drugs. Well,
Oh, you got to go. I've been twice,
Did
and
you
I
take
didn't do any drugs.
You went twice with no drugs.
Yeah, so you can do it.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll go.
Although it's true, there'll be drugs everywhere.
Is there some decadence?
Yeah, but it's up to you.
Right, you don't have to do decadence.
No, yeah.
Well, there's some hedonism.
Oh yeah, I mean there's like swingers tents and things like that, and there's lots of crazy shit like everywhere. It's a full participatory environment, and anything goes. But what you would love about it is it's free of any advertising. And there, no corporations are allowed to advertise. You're not allowed to spend money about that. It's all bartering, but it's really a gift economy. People just give things to each other, and it's completely self-sustainable for that 1 week. So I think you should.
There's
totally
no money.
You're not allowed to use money at Burning Man. No.
So how did it work?
Well, you're supposed to bring your own food and drinks, but if you want to get something from someone else, you just ask or give them something. The only thing you can buy is coffee. There's like a base camp you can buy coffee and ice at. That's it.
Coffee and ice. That's the two things.
Yes, those are the two things.
Like cockroaches that was
That's right. Well, I think in the desert it gets really hot, so that ice can be quite useful. It's really, really hot. But you would love it. You have to go to Burning Man.
Okay.
And that is a real spiritual and really alternative thing. But yeah, because you talk about like worker-owned cooperatives and things like that. And what's beautiful about Burning Man is it's all it's decentralized, and so much comes together, and it's amazing. There's so much creativity and art and just installations everywhere, and it's 24/7. It's nuts. I mean, and there's all these workshops you go to.
Where do we sleep?
So it's up to you. We just we brought a tent and just drove in a car, but you can get a nice RV and do it like glam camping style if you want. So up to you. Yeah, but you'll love it. You'll love it. The people there are so open-minded, and there's all these talks. I mean, about the future. I mean,
I'll go.
Yeah.
Who organises it?
So he's actually right above you in the 100 list, Larry Harvey, he organizes it, and it's crazy. There's nothing like it on earth. Seriously, you have to do it.
Okay.
But okay, sorry. So that's my plug for Burning Man. Another couple of quick things. I love what you say also about these ideas of getting rid of titles. I think
Isn't
that's
that a brilliant idea?
I think it's amazing.
That was Matt Stoller's idea.
Yeah.
He, I think he's a very brilliant thinker, that young man, because I like the idea unravels. It's like pulling a thread.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of get rid of titles, and then suddenly, why have we got that? Why are we placing all these systems? What is this reverence about? Because there's bits of me, I sort of like it. You'll be meeting an admiral later. Will I? Oh my God. Yeah, but it's sort of like, I like the idea of dismantling that lady's back again. I like the idea of dismantling these structures, of pulling them apart. Because what's left behind it, all that's left behind it is a connection. Of course we need some kind of order, but it should be order on our terms, order in harmony.
Well, you met the Queen.
With our environments and one another.
I assume you addressed her properly. Would you do that again?
No, never.
Awesome. I think that's
Not
awesome.
after that. I think it's a good idea he had there, Matt
I do
Stoller.
too. I do too. You just got to follow through on it.
Scary, huh? I'll call her Mrs. Saxa Gober.
I saw that.
Goethe.
Well, that might be a little hardcore.
Hello, Mrs. Saxa Kober Goethe.
Okay. So before we wrap up, because I see we're running out of time, what impact? I guess what are your goals for for the next 10 years? What type of change would you like to personally make in the world?
I want to help people set up their own communities. That's what I want. I want people to participate in their own lives, to be involved in enterprises and endeavours that they find fulfilling, to have control. Not people to wake up and I've got to go to work. And want people to feel like their experience here on this planet is joyful and beautiful and built on the connections that we have between us, each other and the planet. So I want to spend my time doing that, not sort of making myself be on a glistening podium of wonder, being worshipped and filleted. Yes. I've tried that, and that was nice for a while. Yeah, it wears off.
Wow. So, and do you think there'll be another book after this?
Yes, I suppose so. If another one, if this isn't the solution, then I'll write another one. My hope was that a perfect society would spring from this, like a tree, like a forest. But if another book is necessary, then I will write one. I'm sort of half joking, but you know, like yeah, I
It's
think
a great book.
I like writing. I'm really glad you like it.
Yeah.
Etan. I worked hard on it.
Yeah, you mentioned you had to chunk out 100,000 words or something, right? I don't know if that's how much it really is.
104.
104. That's cool. But yeah, no, it's brilliant.
I'm fascinated by the index.
You got some good shit in there, all these great keywords.
St. Francis Prayer, Stalinism, Stanford University, SDD
I
tests.
went to Stanford. I've met Zimbardo, by the way.
Have ya?
He's a really sweet guy.
Yeah, I wasn't criticising.
I know.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I went out of
You
control
went to
for
Stanford,
sure.
and I know it's not an Ivy League university, really.
No. Well, you know what Ivy League was just a bunch of American football schools that played, and they all played football between them. It was the Ivy League. So just these East Coast schools that played football. That's what that
That's
means.
all it is.
That's all it is. It's just really old, and so it sounds prestigious.
Sounds nice
but it's old,
because
but
of an
yeah,
Ivy
but
on a lovely
yeah,
building.
exactly. But there's nothing in the West Coast that's Ivy League.
Nothing. Oh, I see.
It's just those 7 universities that played American football.
Thank you.
But yeah,
Vietnam War, Queen Victoria, Volkswagen.
yeah, no, amazing. You really do cover a lot of turf in here.
I don't.
I mean-
It's all right, isn't it? West Ham United.
It's amazing. Yeah. You mentioned West Ham, how it's all changed, and you mentioned Eckhart Tolle. A lot of really, a lot of cool people. Oprah's in the bus, by the way. Any word, anything to say about Oprah?
I've met Oprah. She's lovely.
Yeah, totally.
She's lovely. She's in the bus. She's one of the 85 richest people in the world.
I believe so. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So they're not all oligarchs, but probably the majority of them are. So.
Well, you know, I've had to. You've got to at some point address these issues.
Yeah, and also, what about when someone creates something? You don't believe in the idea that if you create something that's really amazing, you do believe in some form of ownership, right? Because you mentioned even like the idea of having different wage, like.
What I sort of think is just let people do what they want, kind of. I mean, at some point, it's almost libertine kind of idea. You know, like I've just like sort of, I don't feel like I feel like you know that Burning Man. It's set up as its own community where everyone there has a consensus that that's how they want to be governed. And I think that well, okay, that's how everyone should be. And as long as no little group goes, we're having nuclear weapons and we're going to fuck everyone over, then that's cool. So I suppose you only need a few guiding principles, and then just let people form communities based on the values that they share.